Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. If you're watching the YouTube version, I'd like to thank past and present patrons for coming through. And if you would like to learn more about that, yes, you that I'm talking to right now, visit the link in the description of this episode. Really quick. So for those who don't know, I've been doing a number of videos, some of which are exclusive to YouTube because we're trying to get to 500 subscribers. Right now, we are about 4 subscribers away from 400. So you 4 out there who aren't subscribed, subscribe now, join the party. But some of the content that I've been adding to this channel includes not only the return of the co-hosted podcast, That Time in Hip Hop, which is now exclusively a YouTube thing, because if you've always used to listen back in the day, that podcast hosted by myself and Tony from IntoTheDome.com and Into the Dome podcast, it used to be a part of my audio stream for Hip Hop Now. But because we are trying to push the channel and viewership to the Hip Hop Now podcast YouTube channel, that is an exclusive. Now, it's not going to, we're not producing them at the rate we did before, but we do have 70 plus episodes because of work we put in the past. So I would say maybe twice a month, maybe once or twice a month. For this year, we'll go in and, when the topics make sense, we'll do them. And the first one we came back with was Raucous Records, talking about the history of that record label, the artists that came out from that record label, and whether or not there would ever be another label like Raucous Records. Some say they already exist. I say, not really. But check it out. But coming up, we are doing, on the next episode, we are basically looking back at the 1997 sophomore album, double album from Wu-Tang Clan, Wu-Tang Forever. And when I tell you, one of the things, like when with any content I create, when you're going back and listening to an album that had an impact on the hip hop game, it's always dope to press play again and just, you feel like you're getting transported back to that time, because I probably listen to 36 Chambers on a regular basis than I do Wu-Tang Forever. Wu-Tang Forever, we hear Triumph all the time, and every now and again I may hear another song, but it had been a while since I just listened to Wu-Tang Forever, which is a very dope album. So stay tuned for that. It'll be right here on the channel and all that good stuff. And the other thing, before we get into it, is the cassette tape series I have going on, right? 12 episodes in, taking a quick break, then I'll hit y'all with another 12. But it's basically, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a bunch of cassettes behind me. There's some cassettes here in my garage. And what I do is I pull out a tape, pick up the phone, yo, tale of the tapes. I tell you the story about when I purchased it, what I thought about that album, and what I think about it today. So albums featured were like X-Clan's Exodus, The Best of Biz Markie, Boogie Monster's debut album, the Jay-Z Can't Knock the Hustle remix single. And I have a lot of tapes, because back then in the early mid 90s, I didn't have a CD player. So, I would go and just buy tape like every week. If I had money, I was going to the record store. It didn't matter if nothing was out. I was doing like research, reading the source and all of that good stuff, and just trying to absorb as much as I could as far as information on albums. So when I went to the record store, I was like, I knew what I was looking for, or I knew what I wanted to get. So this series, there's plenty of these cassettes are from a specific era in the 90s. I do have some from the late 90s because, we were still rocking tapes, but I did have a CD player by then. So that's on the channel. Check it out. It's 12 episodes. It's pretty dope. Now, the other thing, and this is the last thing, but for those who follow this podcast for years, let's just say, and those who don't know, I wrote a book back in 2018, basically doing the same things I do here as far as content creation, about albums and classic albums in particular, and my experience when I first heard them and when I purchased them. So whereas the tape series is a quick hit, yo, I bought this, blah, blah, blah. Some of those tapes, or the classic versions, like let's just say like the Chronic, are flushed out because I tell the complete story of me going somewhere and buying it and what I was feeling and the situation and what the time was and how I felt. So I have a Substack, and I'll probably link that here, where I'm going to start to release those stories, those chapters, piece by piece. So what I posted recently is a prologue to the book, so you can check it out, kind of see where my angle is, and then after that, I'll start releasing chapter after chapter. So the link to read all of that good stuff is there. A lot of content, man. So when I say stay locked in or subscribe for more content and sharing it with people would enjoy this content, this is what I mean, man. You got audio, you got visual, and you got written. Vegas World INC. Check it out. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, Double XL magazine, kind of been stepping up, sourcemagazine.com. Yeah, I've been stepping up a little bit. I see y'all getting better. And a couple of places where I get some of these stories from. Let's get right to the business though. So recently this week, Def Jam West pioneer recording artist Boss passed away. Her real name was Lachelle Marie Laws, and she was the first female rapper signed to Def Jam. Her album debuted in 1993 called Born Gangsters. And she's, I believe she's from Detroit, to be honest. But well, hold on. Let me just make sure I get the situation before I get over the place. This is coming from hiphopdx.com. While no cause of death has yet been released, Boss was known to have struggled in the past with kidney failure. So it's kind of what I thought. I know she had some issues, some health issues over time, and there was some scares like in recent years, but she passed away. I believe she was only something like 56. I think so. I can't remember, and I don't have that in front of me. She was 54. If you were outside, if you were old enough to know hip hop back in the days in 93, like I said, that was my time for getting tapes. Born Gangster Boss was like the first hardcore West Coast style female MC. Just for context, when you look at the 80s, you had Queen Latifah, you had JJ Fad, you had MC Light, of course, Antoinette, you had all these Moni Love, all these female MCs, Salt and Pepper, who had a particular style that reflected the times, right? And one thing that always stood out is that, they kind of always had like a crew that was like a cosign in some regards, like a crew of males, basically, whether it was I'm a part of the Juice Crew, like Roxanne Shante, or, Flavor Unit with like Queen Latifah and stuff like that, even though she was kind of one of the heads of that. But there was always this typical MC, right? Not really that feminine, you know what I'm saying? Except for like Nikki D. Like Nikki D, yo, I just be sleeping on Nikki D. Nikki D was nice. I remember seeing her battling dudes, you know. But um it the with the boss, it was different, right? Because this is 1993, West Coast hip hop is everything you remember. Like all you gotta do is just pop in. What is it? Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. That was everything West Coast back then. The movies were that. The music was that. The rappers were that. It was like gangster music. And you didn't usually when you saw the ladies, it was different. It was like the ladies, right? The way their hair was done. The dancing. If they had some kind of tomboyish with them, a situation with them, it was like MC Light, like a B girl. But with Boss, she was like the equivalent of Easy E, but a lady. You know what I'm saying? Equivalent of Ice Cube, but a female. Um, and I think that's what made her stand out amongst the ladies because I know at least initially I didn't know who she was tied to, so I just saw her video and I was like, "Yo, who is this?" And the beat was dope, and the way she was rhyming was dope. It was different, you know what I mean, at that time. And I think she had a huge impact on hip hop alone because in other ways also, like you look at somebody like Little Kim or Foxy where they really brought the sexuality to the forefront in a blatant way. Salt and Pepper did too, but theirs were more so a little subdued. Little Kim and Foxy was just like, no, some of us ladies feel exactly just as vulgar as the men. Okay. Whereas Boss was that, but for the hardcore version of a female MC, of being like, if Nikki D was equivalent to a spitter from New York, that was the same thing for Boss when it came to the West Coast, as far as image and the type of music that was being made. And I think she only had one album, I believe, or at least that's the one that everybody remembers, her debut album. But again, she had an impact. You could see everybody from Eminem, what I'm saying, from Snoop Dogg to everybody, paying homage to her because when she came out, people talked about it. People bought it. People dug her. People liked the fact that a woman was doing this and not flippity goo, glibbity boo. Sorry, Moni Love. I know that's kind of you, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it was different. It was harder edge. It was reality, and people liked it. And she was dope. So rest in peace to Boss. Staying in the lane with the ladies. One of my favorite MCs, Rapsody, has a new album on the way. It's called Please Don't Cry. Uh, she recently announced, so actually it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years since her last album, which I think is so slept on. So slept on. Like Rhapsody can kind of be slept on as an artist in general. But I feel like they were giving her a lot of props for Layla's wisdom. Whereas her last album, Eve, was like in a early situation, like early 90s or whatever, it would be a classic if you ask me. She had different flows, she showed range, the beats were there, the concepts was crazy, it was all dedicated to women. Um, but now she's back. The album's called Please Don't Cry. Uh, it's supposed to drop on May 17th, so we got some time before it's out. She did drop a new single that I thought was pretty dope. So that's exciting, right? To get started. But this album also has a lot of features on it, big time features. Lil Wayne, Erica Badu, Hit Boy on the beats, Baby Tate. I don't think I know who that is. Alex Isley, and it's going to be about 22 songs. Wait, let's see. Anderson Paak's on here also. Felicia Rashad from the Cosby Show, y'all, is on here. So yeah, it's a thing where in general, Rhapsody is a very dope artist who doesn't get the props she deserves, at least to me, not on the scale she deserves it, for having skill and also doing it on the highest level. I was messing with Rhapsody when she was working with Ninth and had sort of like the independent, I guess they're independent, I don't know, albums, but mixtapes also, where I thought she was dope. And I think the best part about her was the fact that she could talk about relationships from a female perspective and not have dudes tune out. You know what I mean? Like most dudes back in the 90s were big fans of Mary J. Blige, right? And obviously she's talking about dudes. Dudes was fans of Lil Kim. Obviously she's talking her about her sexuality from a female perspective. And for some dudes, it's for people in general, you when you like music is because you can relate to the person who to the artist, right? And the lyrics. And sometimes it's difficult to relate to a woman's side of a relationship when you're basically always going to be the male in it, right? So the album itself is basically, as far as concept goes, is basically going to describe the discovery of her journey, self-discovery, self-acceptance that she is, basically put into this album. A lot of time to reflect between albums on herself, and to be honest, and Rhapsody fans already know this. This is when Rhapsody is at her best because she's never to bar king or queen to show her vulnerability on tracks. She's an excellent songwriter, you know what I mean? Like a rapper can write about drugs and being the best MC and all this other stuff all the time, and after a while it's just becomes something you do. But it's very difficult for some rappers to truly take their art or take their technique and apply it to their real life or real life situations and convey it in a way that connects with people, connects with the listeners. And that's what I mean about Rhapsody. She is very good at doing that. And with these guest appearances, with high level quality of production, which she showed on her last album for sure. Um, I think this could be one of the best of the year, if done right. And the first single just let me know that okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing. The production, the first single was with her and Hit Boy. I'm liking what I'm hearing. This might be crazy, so we'll see what happens. And lastly, so Royce the 5'9" appeared recently on the Joe Budden podcast, and he said J.Cole was the only competitive rapper today. Before we get into that, let's look at some quotes. I haven't taken a real deep look out into the landscape, but from where I'm sitting, it looks like J. Cole, the only one being competitive. He's the only one who's rapping with the kind of conviction that says, I still value the number one spot as a lyricist. I see a lot of the younger generation not really hanging their hat on just the lyrical part of creativity at all. They're finding different ways to impact and resonate with people, which is fine. That's when the elder statesmen like myself start learning. I want to make myself understand, why is this touching people like that? I can't even understand what they're saying. It's definitely moving away from lyricism being the caveat, which I'm cool with because there's a lot more things I can do without being lyrical. So before you get up in arms about who's nice, and who he's overlooking or ignoring or not paying attention to, think about this. When you say J. Cole is not in the same lane as far as status as Griselda, Westside Benny, Conway, Stove God, um, other rappers like Mickey Fax and even Lupe Fiasco, right? Like these are people who I'm naming who could spit. RJ Payne, people who could spit. They're not in the same lane as J. Cole when it comes to status in the hip hop game. When you hear him say things like that, and you you hear him say, "Yo, I can't even understand what they're saying." You know he's not talking about those rappers because whether you like it or not, J. Cole competes with other rappers who aren't even lyrical at all as far as status. He competes for the same fans. He competes for a similar spotlight. Um, and what's dope is, he has been on a song with like Benny the Butcher, So I think in a lot of ways, I agree with Royce the 5'9" from that standpoint because even Royce and J. Cole are not on the same status level. They're not, right? We're checking for Royce. This is the difference, right? Us heads are checking for all those people I named, including J. Cole. The fans that really probably make up J. Cole fans are checking for J. Cole and not checking for any of the people I named. They're checking for the Yachty's and the Gucci's and you know what I'm saying? And the Lils, all the Lils, put them all together, all the Lils, all the big babies, little babies, all of them, put them together. That's who they're checking for. So that becomes his competition. And he's the only one who is like aggressive in trying to prove that he's the best one spitting on this level. Now, some would say, well, of course you're the best one spitting on that level when that's your competition, but it's the truth. It's really just, unfortunately, showing what Roy said, that people don't really care about lyricism like that because if they did, there'd be more than just J. Cole on that level. Once upon a time, kids, everybody on that level was a spitter. But now it's almost like J. Cole is maybe he's not being the most competitive, but maybe he's the only one trying to keep it alive on that level. That's the point, right? Royce, he knows that there are plenty of people, including him, who are just as competitive. But J. Cole is the only one because Kendrick not really concerned about that. Kendrick is more concerned about making music that resonates with people. And every now and again, he might give you a bar or he'll give you a song where it's a display of skill, but he's not who he used to be. Drake got to be in a beef or somebody get mad at him or say his album whack for you to even get some sort of competitiveness out of him. But J. Cole is actively trying to keep the hip hop casuals thinking bars matter. He fighting a good fight, y'all. That's what he doing. He fighting a good fight. So now let's talk about it from another perspective. Okay, let's just say everybody rapping. Is he the only one being competitive? Nope. I think Royce, even though he hasn't dropped a joint in a while, but apparently he's working on Prime 3 with Premiere. I think we'll see, like, yep, he still spit. I think Benny and Conway and Stove God and RJ Payne and cats like that who, the bars is something else. Like, that's what they care about. And yeah, shout out I Am God, man. Like, cats like that are like technicians with the wordplay. But the unfortunate part, and going back to the main point, is when you look at the mainstream level, on a mainstream level, J. Cole is above a lot of those guys. No, he's above all of them on a mainstream level. And everybody else in that mainstream level is either on a different path or subpar lyrically. And he's the only one that raps like lyrics still matters. And that's just what it is, man. So I don't know. You tell me. What do you think about Royce the 5'9's comments? Do you remember Boss from back in '93? You know what I'm saying? Leave your memories and your comments in the comment section below. You can follow me on social media. It doesn't matter where it is. TikTok might be dead, but I'm on everything else at Vegas World INC. And also subscribe to the podcast in audio form. And remember, trying to get to 500 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. But more importantly, share it with people you know would enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.